Radio.
Hey, Chris, Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Chris. How you doing?
Doing great. I know a lot of coaches, when they take on Georgia Tech, have to play that lovely option that you always love to do every week. How do you guys get ready for that? Do you have a quarterback in your system that you could use during practice to run that option?
Yeah, we've got one of our freshman corners who played quarterback in high school, Theron Coleman from Brashear High School, that is running our offense. And to be honest with you, I think our guys had a really good practice yesterday. I think they were enthusiastic about doing it, and that's partly the attitude you take into it. We practiced it, during summer camp a lot, so we've been a little bit more prepared this year than maybe in the past that we were. Because you're so worried about just getting your base stuff in your first season. I think we're more mentally prepared, physically prepared, and I think we got a great attitude with it.
And I know this weekend on Saturday, you guys are doing some throwback jerseys to the past of Pitt, like something around the '80s. Is that pretty cool? Hooking up the past with the future and showing all these players and alumni and all that about the past, and hopefully the future will become great. It's just like what they did in the early '80s.
No doubt. I mean, we always want to connect, the past with the future and the now, and to be able to bring back those, we call them retro uniforms because they're not exactly like anything, but they're very similar to a lot of the different looks we've had here in the past teams, as well as dating back to '76 when we won the last national championship. But we've got a great tradition and past here at the University of Pittsburgh, and I think not only are our kids excited, but the fan base in general. And I look for a great homecoming crowd here this weekend.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful homecoming crowd, and hope you guys can fire a win.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you.
With Herb FM Radio.
Hey, Chris, Paul, how you doing?
Good, Chris. How are you?
Doing great. Talk about going up to Pittsburgh to play the Panthers this weekend. What are the three keys for you guys to pull out a victory up there? It's a good NFL stadium, and you guys have been having a tough couple weeks with good teams you've been playing with.
Right. Well, I think it's probably no different than most games. We've got to try to, stay away from turning the ball over. That's a killer, and we need to get some turnovers. We haven't forced very many turnovers this year, so maybe it'll be we're due. Last time we were up there, they kind of rained on us, so with turnovers, which helped a lot. But that's going to be huge. They're a really good rushing football team, I think, with what they do. So we've got to try to limit the big plays, especially in the running game, and do better on third down, both offensively and defensively. We played much better against Miami on third down the second half, but we've got to be better on third down on both offense and defense. And I think if we do that, we'll have a chance.
Mm-hmm. It seemed like last week against Miami, that second quarter was your Achilles heel. Is it something that this week you want to avoid having a quarter like that, turning the ball over, fumbling, and all that stuff?
Well, it was the second quarter of the series. We went back to back with turnovers for touchdowns. Yeah, and against a good team, you're not going to survive doing that. And we got our quarterback hit in the back, and they picked it up and ran it in, and then we just kind of fumbled one. We made a poor decision and should have eaten the ball and didn't, and they picked it up and ran it in. So you can't do that, especially against a good football team.
Well, good luck and a safe trip up to Pittsburgh.
Okay, thanks.
Herb FM Radio.
Hey, Chris, Bobby. How you doing?
Chris, great. How you doing?
A tough loss last Saturday night. That was a great college football game down there in Clemson. Besides losing. Anyway, talk about your bye week. What do you like about your team so far?
Well, just the attitude that we've come out to practice with, and we're working hard to get better. I think it's, like I said, a good time for a bye, and we're going to just work with being good attitude and improving this week.
And with the bye and all that stuff, is it good to have a bye now or later in the year? Because it seems like you guys will be, not playing for like a week and a half, pretty much. So it seems like you guys are you afraid that some of your players might be a little, well rested for the game next Friday against Duke?
Well, I hope we're well rested and fresh. You know, one of the things you really try to do is, or I really try to do and believe in, is get into the game fresh mentally and fresh physically, so you can go out and perform at a very high level. So I think we'll try to handle this the best way we know how, and make sure we're sharp and fresh and ready to go. And I know we'll be excited to get back on the field and play a game.
Well, good luck this week on your bye week.
Thank you very much.
With this game, because it's first year with the new head coach. You know, Beamer left after 30 years. So what's the feeling like around there?
No, it's a road game for us.
Road game. Road game. So for a road game. So what's the mood like around Blacksburg for you guys? You know, with the new coach and the new regime and everything's all different from the years past.
Yeah, it's great excitement right now. The Hokies being ranked for the first time since 2014, coming off their bye week. There's a lot of excitement because you've had lopsided wins in each of your last two games, both of those at home. So there's been a lot of excitement ever since Justin Fuente was hired, and obviously a lot of reference being paid to Frank Beamer and what he built here, but at the same time a rejuvenating feeling around the program. And when you look at this North Carolina game, a tremendous opportunity because it's a team in the Tar Heels that have a high national profile, and a team that you feel like you match up well against and have a great opportunity to not necessarily make a statement, but certainly remind people of Virginia Tech football and what it's capable of and the talent you think that you have on the field this year and hope to bring in through recruiting in the years to come. So there's a lot at stake, and I think people recognize that here in Blacksburg. So there's a bit of a tension about that, but at the same time, a lot of excitement as well in terms of what the next few weeks might hold for this team and program.
Yeah. So with the schedule, the remaining of the schedule, and of course, there's all these are all coastal division games coming up after North Carolina, and do you see them a clear path to Orlando, or do you think there's a speed bump in between?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Not all coastal division games. You get Syracuse in there as well on your crossover. The next week, you've got 4 or 5 of your next games away from Lane Stadium. So a tremendous challenge for this team, and you also look at that stretch. It's including North Carolina, which is ranked, Pitt, which would be ranked if they hadn't lost to North Carolina, and a very good team in its own right, and then Miami, which is one of the hottest teams in the country, is your lone home game in the month of October. So, no, there's absolutely not a clear path for this team. You do have all the teams that you need to beat in order to be competitive in your division in front of you, but you certainly can't be thinking about Orlando at this point, or else you're not going to get anywhere close to getting there.
Right. With the weather coming up this weekend, with this hurricane coming up this coast, you're going to North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I know you're away from the coastline, but it could still be affected by it. What do I know you can't predict the map or anything, not a weather person or anything. Will that be a factor if a lot of rain from Matthews shows up and makes it into a sloppy game?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We haven't played in any sort of inclement weather yet, and I don't think North Carolina really has either. Both of these offenses are very high octane, and generally if it's a sloppy game or it's a lot of precipitation, then that trends towards a game on the ground, and you might point at that point to the offense having the advantage for North Carolina because of their ground game and because of Elijah Hood and TJ Logan. But at the same time, the Hokies feel very capable in their run game and where their offensive line is. So we're not anticipating being a huge factor. We hope, obviously, and pray for the safety of the people on the coast. We do anticipate getting some residual rain, but nothing from a severity that would require the game to be moved. So I think both teams are preparing as if it'll go on as scheduled and with minimal interruption or interference from Mother Nature. And we hope that, because we'd love to see a classic game in this division between a team on the rise in North Carolina and a team trying to get back to where they were in Virginia Tech. And obviously you wouldn't want to see that marred by any sort of weather-related incident.
Right.
FM Radio.
Hey, Coach. This is Coach Justin. Yeah? Hey,
what's that?
Sorry about that. I didn't hear you in the beginning. I was working on something. Talk about you had a bye week last week. Just talk about your first month with Virginia Tech, and what do you like to see going forward?
Well, we spent part of our bye week going back to fundamentals in terms of special teams work, and offensively and defensively we got a lot of work for our young guys. We didn't exactly just give the older guys off, but we still kept them sharp and got good work for them. Our kids did a good job approaching the bye week and understood that
Certainly not an off week. Just because we don't have a game on Saturday doesn't mean we don't have a tremendous amount of work to get done. So I like the way the kids approached it and have approached game week thus far.
And also talk about the weather this weekend coming up with this hurricane. You might get a lot of rain in Chapel Hill around the Durham area. You guys haven't played in a lot of rain so far. So what are you guys getting prepared for maybe a monsoon or a lot of wind? What do you guys got to do?
Well, I don't know that there's a whole lot that we can do. We don't have a lot of control over the weather. We practice outside quite a bit. And there's a fair amount of wind in Blacksburg, particularly in the springtime. But we've done some work with wet footballs to try and simulate that. But it's something we don't have a whole lot of control over, and whatever it is, we'll do our best to adapt.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have a safe trip down to Chapel Hill with this big storm coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We played in some rain conditions up here this weekend and did okay. The biggest thing there is how you hang on to the football and how you secure everything. So we'll keep watching it. We'll just figure out what Mother Nature's going to do and then go from there.
And talk about Elon. They're a pretty good team this year. They beat William & Mary down in Williamsburg. What do you see on their film right now?
Well, as you watch that football team, it's a much improved team, and I think it starts in the offensive line. Their offensive line has grown up over the last 3 years. You've seen them play, and they've got some big kids. They got Udo at tackle. I think I'm saying it right at 6'6", 356. You got Milwaukee from Massachusetts at 6'6", 282. You got a 295, 292-pound guards. They're a big, strong, physical football team. They did a great job of mixing run play action against William & Mary in a game where they physically did a good job against a very good William & Mary job. So we're going to have our hands full stopping the run game, and they've got Gentry, Summers, and McNear. They got 3 good backs, so we're going to have to keep our eyes on them.
Well, I hope you have a good week of practice, and I hope you get a lot of sleep, because I know there's a playoff game on Wednesday, and I hope you could get some sleep for that.
Thanks, Chris. We'll take care, man.
All right, man.
Up front on both sides to have a chance in this game. Obviously their running backs are very talented. And obviously, their defense plays with intensity. They run around, they tackle. I know some of the coaches on defense there who I have great respect for. We have great respect for what Coach Brock has done down there. They have our attention. There's no doubt about it. We know we need to play very well. So we'll get back to doing what we do, but there's no doubt that we need to play really well to have a chance in the game.
I know you opened this year. You played against Toledo. That was a long trip for you guys, going from Maine to Toledo. Now that you got to go from Maine down to Delaware, how are you going to keep your players fresh on that long bus trip?
Well, we'll be flying, so that's a good thing.
That's good.
No, we're used to it. I mean, we have 4 flights this year. We probably have about 3-4 flights every year. Our kids actually, I think, like kind of being on the road and playing those situations. We travel in a good way. We do things the right way. We charter and we get into good hotels. So I think the mentality of the way we travel is a positive thing for us. Sometimes getting away from home is maybe what you need, and I just think we've always been a good road team here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because of the tradition that's been here from Coach Cosgrove, and the way we travel is first class. We try to make it as first class as we can. So, that won't bother us. We'll be more worried about the team that we're facing and how good they are.
Yeah. Well, good luck this week on your trip down to Delaware.
Thanks a lot.
Dill with Herb FM Radio. Hey, Coach Kelly, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Talking about this weather that's coming up, this big hurricane. I know you went to Clemson last year. Is it good to play in that massive rainstorm last year to get your players ready for another massive rainstorm coming this weekend?
I don't know if it's ever good, but they know that the elements are what they are, and being up here in the Midwest, we're used to playing in all kinds of weather, so the guys will acclimate. We practice in wet ball conditions, and obviously are prepared for whatever the circumstances, and the most important thing is don't make excuses, just go out and play.
And talk about what's the 3 keys for you guys to pull out a win in a place that you haven't never played before in NC State? The 3 keys for you.
Well, obviously they got a really, really diversified offensive scheme. I think number one, can't give up big play runs. I think Matt Days is a game breaker. I think he can definitely be a difference maker in this game. And I think you've got to tackle Stephen Lewis. The ball's going to come out to Lewis, but he breaks a lot of tackles. I think those two guys are really key to their offense. Finley obviously is very smart and very good quarterback, but Days and Lewis are the guys that we have to focus on. Defensively, it's our ability to attack a very sound and fundamental defense that doesn't give up a lot of big plays. So we've got to make some on our side of the ball in terms of, getting the ball and getting some big chunk plays.
Well, I hope you guys have a safe trip to North Carolina. Be safe going down there with this storm coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dill with Herb FM Radio.
Hey, Coach Dave. How you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
Talk about this big game coming up against Notre Dame. Their defense is pretty struggling. They're giving up a lot of yardage, a lot of big plays, and all that stuff. What do you see on their defense that might give you an advantage on Saturday?
Well, they've made changes on their defense, so it's hard to judge the whole body of work. There's really one game that reflects what they're trying to be now, and they adjusted, I thought, well in the Syracuse game. They didn't start well, gave up some big plays early, and thought they played really well in the second half. So, I can't really go off of the other games because they're simplifying things and is a different play caller, other than watching their personnel. But I think we're going to see a defense that plays hard. They're going to be sound. They're going to keep the ball in front of them, and we got to break tackles and make people miss and do the things that we do.
You were in last year's game. You had one carry for -5 yards. What did you learn from last year's game? It was a good game down in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium that might help you for this year's game against them up at your place.
Last year they kind of did a little bit of a different approach during that game than what we had seen all year. Kind of with how they really try to stop the run and force us to beat them deep, beat them over the top. Playing man coverage and loading the box with guys with linebackers and extra safety help trying to stop Saquon in our run game. So that's something that we know they did last year and something that we need to be ready for again if they decide to come out and do that again this year.
And talk about their defense. What do you see on film that was different from last year? Because I know it's a whole different coaching staff. That coaching staff is gone.
Yeah, no, it's a completely different coaching staff. Coach Durkin, the head coach, he's been a defensive guy his whole career, and he's had really good defense at Florida and at Michigan. So he's got a really good system, really good defensive scheme that he brought to Maryland, and then it'll be just seeing some things on film there. There's some things we can try and attack with our guys outside and being our run game and things like that. I think it'll be a tough game. Maryland's always a tough team. It'll be definitely a hard-fought game, but I'm excited to get back and play in front of our fans again, and play in front of in Beaver Stadium.
Well, have a good time.